Welcome to a world where mixology meets artificial intelligence, where the art of crafting cocktails merges with the power of technology. In this exciting journey, we delve into the fascinating realm of bartending, transformed by the wonders of AI. Now, if that intro seemed a little canned and not quite as vibrant as my usual intro, that's because that intro was written by AI. Now, I'm sure anyone who's been following the news lately has heard all about the revolutionary advances of AI within the realm of artwork and music. It's because of this that I've had numerous people reach out to me asking if I'm worried about the future of bartending due to AI. Now, for the most part, I'm not worried about AI taking our jobs, when it actually comes to the physical aspects of it. Pouring drinks, checking in on guests, wiping down the bar top, so on and so forth. However, one area that I do find very interesting is the act of recipe creation. Due to the fact that so many bartenders see this not only as a beautiful act of creation and self-expression, but also as a way for monetary compensation when we do consulting work for brands. I wanted to go online and see if AI was going to be coming after our jobs. So in order to keep things interesting, I didn't want to just type in hey, ChatGPT, give me an old-fashioned riff, or hey, give me a Moscow Mule variation. I want to get a little more intense than that. So because of that, I decided to type in something that maybe might be a bit of a curveball. So I proceeded to go online and type in, "Dear ChatGPT, could you please create a tropical cocktail for me which features scotch in a starring role?" It's important to note that I always say please and thank you when I interact with AI, because in the future, if they do come after us, I want them to be like, "That Erick guy, he was pretty cool, let's let him live." But needless to say, I was impressed with the recipe that was cranked out by the AI. It actually looked very tasty. The flavors seemed to work. There were a couple areas I thought needed a bit of tweaking, but for the most part, the drink looked very potable and actually pretty tasty. So as I'm looking at the recipe here, the recipe looks pretty good. Looks like all the flavors are gonna fall into place. I'm a little bit skeptical about the ratios on these. I think those could probably be tweaked for a better tasting drink. However, the idea of 2 ounces of scotch looks like a great start. Good base for a classic cocktail. Ounce fresh lime juice seems a little bit heavy, if you ask me. Might be a very tart drink. 1 ounce pineapple looks good. Now the sweetener's where we seem to get to an issue. There's a 1/2 ounce of honey syrup and a 1/2 ounce of orgeat. A full ounce of syrup in a cocktail seems a little excessive, especially if you're only doing 2 ounces for the base. However, before I dive into it, I'm already guessing that I'm probably gonna be able to pull the lime juice back a 1/4 ounce, which will also allow me to pull the syrup back a 1/4 ounce, which should be really nice and have the drink not be so tart and sweet. Lastly, there's a dash of Angostura bitters in there. The drink might be better with 2 dashes of Angostura, or maybe even the addition of orange bitters. Otherwise, the drink looks very tasty. Some small adjustments, and I think it's like a good baseline to start with. But first, let's make one as is so we can compare and contrast to the final product after we make the necessary tweaks. However, before we do make it, I do want to comment that the drink actually doesn't really look like any other Scotch cocktail I've seen, which makes it really interesting. It does vaguely remind me of the Starboard Light, which was a cocktail out of Trader Vic's Pacific Island Cookbook, written in 1968, which, by the way, is a recipe that we featured on our Scotch Tiki Drinks episode, which is right here if you'd like to check it out. And the only reason it kind of reminds me of that drink is because, it combines scotch, citrus, honey in kind of a tropical tiki format. However, aside from that, the drink does look good. But let's go ahead and make one as the recipe explicitly says. First, let's add 1 dash of Angostura bitters, followed up with 1 ounce fresh lime juice, along with 1 ounce pineapple juice, a 1/2 ounce orgeat, and an ounce honey syrup. I'm just gonna go ahead and stack those on top of each other. Now finally, we're gonna add 2 ounces of scotch. Now it's time to add some ice before we give it a good shake. Now that we're done shaking it up, I'm gonna go ahead and do a party pour which means I'm putting the entire contents into a chill glass. Now it's time to give the cocktail a taste. Here's the thing, this drink's not bad. This drink's not bad at all. In fact, it's better than a lot of cocktails that I've had at cocktail bars recently. Now, to preface that, there's nothing particularly exciting about this cocktail. I mean, it's very forgettable. The drink is balanced enough, it's tasty, but there's really nothing that makes it memorable, that makes it pop. If I did want to be a little bit harder on it though and critique it a little bit harder, it's a little sweet and it's a little tart. However, I do feel that within the tropical tiki genre that can be a little more forgiving. I do feel though that the drink is just a little boring, which means that now I get to put my cocktail doctor hat on and help this cocktail have the glow up that it deserves. Okay, so now I'm gonna make my version of it with a few tweaks. To start with, I left the Angostura at 1 dash. Next, I pulled the lime juice back to 3/4 ounce so the drink wouldn't be so tart. Next, I'm adding a 1/2 ounce of honey syrup, just as indicated in the original recipe. However, instead of adding a 1/2 ounce of orgeat, in its place, I'm adding a 1/2 ounce of falernum instead. Falernum is a Caribbean spice liqueur, so I'm hoping that it could provide a little bit of nuance and added depth as opposed to the one note that you get from the almond syrup. I did keep the pineapple juice at 1 ounce though because I liked what that flavor brought. And lastly, we're gonna be adding 2 ounces of scotch. Now it's time to add some ice and give the drink a good shake. Now let's go ahead and party pour this cocktail right into the glass. And lastly, to finish the drink off, we're gonna float with 1 teaspoon of Lefroy Scotch whiskey. Now lastly, I'm gonna garnish the cocktail with the freshly cut grapefruit twist. And there you have it, folks, the new and improved version of this cocktail that's a result of millions of years of intellectual power of the human mind combined with the newest technology of AI. So a lot of the rationale behind the changes in this cocktail was that I did like the honey, I like the lime, I like the scotch, and I like the pineapple in this drink, in addition to the bitters. However, I felt like the bitters were doing all of the work in regards to adding some depth and complexity. In addition, the peated scotch added some much needed depth to the cocktail and really helped put it over the top. So really, if you think about it, this drink isn't doing that much more than this one. It's just doing it better. What we did was we took the template spit out by AI and tweaked it and adapted it in a way to make it more memorable, but also more importantly, more delicious. However, before I let all of you go, in the spirit of being collaborative, I wanted to check in with ChatGPT and see what ChatGPT would actually name this cocktail. And the name that it cranked out was Tropical Harmony. Not that bad, but since this is the second version of the Tropical Harmony, I would actually say that maybe a better name for this would be the Tropical Harmony number 2. But for all of you out there, I know this time we fixed drinks that were cranked out by AI, but for future episodes, maybe I might fix a cocktail that's submitted by one of you. Do you have any cocktails out there that you've kind of hit a roadblock with, maybe a creative block, and you're looking for somebody to help you tweak them and maybe improve on them and make them better? Come to me, the Cocktail Doctor, because I will help you make a better version of that said cocktail. With that said, if you'd like to dive deeper into the world of craft cocktails, be sure to check out the Bartender Large podcast, which I host on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else where quality podcasts are found. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.